welcome back, guys. My name is Jay, and this is my Diecast Creations channel. And today we are entering the UK Car of the Month of March 2021. The theme for this month is off-road. So big tires, big wheels, off-road suspension, walkers, whatever you want to do, really. I picked a Chinese knockoff of an Audi Quattro, Audi Sport Quattro, whatever you want to call it. I really like this car. I've always liked this car, so I wanted to do something with it. I didn't have a Hot Wheels version, so I decided to just use the knockoff that was in my possession, right? So basically I seen it. I said, this is the one. So now we're going to take it apart. I'm looking at it here. I'm like, yeah, the wheels are nice, but the theme is off-road. So I didn't want to go crazy and add like super suspension on it. I literally started this car a couple days ago, and I finished it in 2 sessions. So maybe 5 or 6 hours. So I'm just taking it apart. I see that the windshield is junk, and the interior is pretty cheap, but you know, for Gaslands and what I was going to do with it, it didn't really matter. You weren't going to see much of it. So I took it apart nicely, not trying to break anything, and then 2 minutes later, off camera, I snapped the base in half, trying to put it back together to mock it up. So I ended up gluing it back together, and you know, everything worked out fine. But basically, I took a file to the car, and I just started gouging into the paint. I've done this on a few of my builds, and you know, you guys, if anybody's following me, you've seen my process, and I decided to stick with that on this. I did keep the tampos on the hood and the roof, and I ended up doing something different on the sides, but you'll see in a second. I had a 914 that I did for Andrew at Maple Leaf Matchbox, and I took the wheels off of it, so I decided to recycle those onto this car. They weren't huge, they fit in the wheel wells nice, and they had an off-road look to it, so I decided to keep those. And then what I did was I took red primer, and I sprayed from the bottom up and covered the sides and the front, and basically let it speckle onto the top to simulate dirt and rust and wear and tear. And I didn't want to strip this car. I didn't even know if the metal would hold up to the stripper, so I decided to just do that and basically go at it. And then I had an idea that we're gonna make this car into the tire guy, right? He's basically the tire guy. If you get a flat tire in the wastelands, he's the one that's gonna bring it out to you. And if you don't pay him, then he's gonna use the BFG that's on the top of the car and take care of business, right? So the axles actually lined up. I glued them in there. Basically, that was one of those rare occasions where everything was good, and I didn't have to make any modifications to the axles, and I didn't even have to add any axle tubes, because it's a Gaslands car. It doesn't need to roll. So I go in with typhus corrosion, and I basically hit on the crevices where I feel like rust would start to drip, right? And it gives that texture that I keep talking about. You know, you don't need to add a lot of it. You just need to put it in the places that you want it to look really bad. And before I did that, I hit it with a brown wash. I hit it with the typhus, and then I go back in with a brown wash, and that's part of the process, is getting the lines to blend. You don't want anything to just stick out. You want it to blend. So, you know, I ended up using a wash on this thing like 2 or 3 times. And it just, you know, layer after layer, it builds up, and then next thing you know, you got something that looks decent. So that's basically the process that I stick to, and it's not hard, it's not rocket science, and anybody can do this. It just takes practice. So basically, after all is said and done, I let it all dry, and then I go in with Rise of Rust, which is a Games Workshop dry brushing paint, and I used it very heavily on this car. I just dry brushed over everything. I let it catch to all the raised areas, and you know, it gives it that orange tint that it, you know, it's been out in the sun, it's been out in the weather, it's got some some dirt and grime, but it's also got that rust patina to it, you know. And I don't know if I nailed it on the head with this one, but you know, I think it ends up turning out pretty good. Because after, you know, so now as you're doing this process, you don't have to get stuck on, does it look good right now? Because you're going to keep adding layers and layers. So now this is the rust layer. And then after this, we're going to add the dirt layer, right? So now I dry brush dirt. I use apple barrel paints, and I go from dark to light, burnt umber, chestnut, and then a khaki color. And it just adds like a dirt desert look to it, where it all kicked up, and that's what it ends up being. So then I'm like the tire guy, so he's got tires in the back seat, and I try to use a really white color on the seat there, and it didn't work out, so I covered it back up. But basically, I took a piece of mesh, I threw it in the front windshield, I put a tire on the passenger side, because, you know, there's no storage on an Audi, so we're going to stack it all on top. And anybody let me know if you feel like I cheaped out on this, because I know I could have did more, but, you know, I just have so much time to do things, and I got a bunch of projects going on, and I wanted to get this done. So, you know, I stuck to the plan, and, you know, it is what it is. So I start gluing things on. The wheels are on, the axle's on, the base is glued. I glued a gun on top, and then I just start stacking wheels where I think they would look good, you know? And I know in reality, these wheels would just fall off the top of the car. I could have added ropes and chains and maybe put some walls up, but I felt like it would have took away from the look of the lines of the car and everything. I wanted to keep all that, right? So then I start going, once I glue everything on, I go back over with the khaki color, and I dry brush over everything. So now, you know, it kind of brings everything together, and it gives that dust effect, like it covered everything. I go in with antique parchment on the headlights here, and then a dark red, I don't remember the name of it, but it's an apple barrel red. It's a darker color, like a crimson color. I've used it on another one of my builds before. And then I finish it off with a Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. I believe I put 2 coats on the car. And that's basically it. You know, 1, 2, 3, and it was done in 2 sessions. So you let me know if I did a good job, or if I took the easy road and, you know, cheaped out by gluing a bunch of tires on the car. But, you know, this is basically a car that we started with. It's I believe it's like a 1984 Audi Sport Quattro. It's a Chinese knockoff. There's not even a name on the base, so I don't know the manufacturer. And we transform it into the tire guy, the tire guy with a BFG, you know. I'm not going to say what that means, because most of you already know, and I don't want my channel to get in trouble. But that's basically that in a nutshell. You know, this is my entry for the March UK Car of the Month competition. Hope you guys liked. If you did, like, subscribe, you know, hit the bell, and thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.